I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things, all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. So last week, I reviewed AEW Dynasty. That same weekend, we had TNA Rebellion. But I can only do one a week, so let's now get to TNA Rebellion from the Palms Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. The opening match, which usually seems to be the opener for TNA pay-per-views, was for the X Division Championship, as Jake Something challenged Mustafa Ali. This was actually a really good opener. And what I like about it the most is that, unlike my biggest complaint about X Division Championship matches in the past, this one had some build-up. This is a rivalry they took their time to make. Jake Something winning the number one contendership, and Mustafa Ali desperately trying to stop it from happening, saying he wasn't X Division material. Basically because he was too big. And then, of course, them arguing it's not weight limits, it's no limits. Their little tagline. And Mustafa Ali, he really took it to Jake Something, even to the point of doing his slingshot neckbreaker thing he does, but outside on the ramp. But Jake Something showing he belongs in the X Division when Mustafa Ali went to do a Hurricane Rana, and not only did Jake Something catch him, but roll it up into a powerbomb. But eventually Ali was able to get a roll up and grab the rope to give him leverage and get the pin and retain his X Division Championship. Like I said, this was actually a great opener. And what made it a great opener was that we actually were invested and cared about this match. So I will give it a 4 out of 5. Yeah! Then, simple grudge match of Rich Swann versus Joe Hendry. The match itself, it was okay. There was nothing thrilling about it until AJ Francis on the outside was about to get involved, but was stopped by a guest at ringside, Sean Lights Out Merriman, former football player. Given the name Lights Out because he could tackle people and knock them out. But whereas Sean Merriman was preventing AJ Francis from interfering, it turned out to be a ruse because he interfered, clocking Joe Hendry, knocking him out. Putting his lights out, if you will. And this allowed Rich Swann to get the pin and the win. And I will say, I was probably already going to give it a 3. That cemented that, yeah, it definitely deserves a 3 out of 5. Yeah! And then Full Metal Mayhem, which is just a hardcore match, between Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young. It was a damn good, brutal match. And it is a Full Metal Mayhem match. This is TNA, so that meant we were going to get a cameo from Janice. But the ending was very cringe, as Frankie Kazarian set up a table, got the flux capacitor onto Eric Young, but he didn't really go through the table. Kind of a brutal botch as Eric Young's face hit the side of the table, breaking the side of it, the corner, and that was it, causing Eric Young to bleed from the side. It was very, very cringeworthy, but it led to Frankie Kazarian getting the pin and the win. And honestly, I will say, as good as this rivalry has been, I hope it's done, and I hope Frankie Kazarian can start going and working on becoming the TNA World Champion. It's been long overdue. But this match, its storytelling, its brutality, and everything, it definitely got its 5 out of 5. Then we had a bit of an impromptu match. As at first, Steve Maclin came out with a contract saying that TNA has met all of his demands, except he wanted one more thing. He wanted a match that night at Rebellion. Then the director of Authority, Santino Marella, came out and gave him what he asked for, as we had the return of Mike Santana, who is now back in TNA by himself. And you know what? It was a good return for Mike Santana, especially considering that he's now a singles athlete. It was a good match. Got some great air on a cannonball. And after a little back and forth and a spin the block, he got the pin and the win, which we weren't surprised about. Like, they were going to have the returning Mike Santana lose. No. But still, it was a good match. Unexpected. 3 out of 5. Yeah! Then for the TNA Tag Team Championships, Speedball Mountain versus The System. It was good. I just had trouble getting invested in it because I really don't care about Speedball Mountain. I like Trent Seven. Mike Bailey, in my opinion, is one of the most overrated wrestlers. But it was good. You know, both teams, really good teamwork. But I gotta say The System a little bit more. And it even went to when Brian Myers and Ed Edwards, and again, got a combo of their finishers, the roster cut and the Boston Knee Party, so they could get the pin, the win, and retain their TNA Tag Team Championships. Like I said, another good match. I just wasn't that invested in it. I didn't really feel like there was any chance Speedball Mountain was going to win. But I would definitely give it a 3 out of 5. Then, not only a rubber match, but a last man standing match of Hammerstone versus Josh Alexander. Their first 2 matches were great. How are they going to step it up? Last man standing. And it was what we expected. It was as intense as we expected. So intense that we had another cringe moment when Josh Alexander was bleeding from his ear. And of course, there were some big moves like Hammerstone getting a nightmare pendulum off the top rope onto some thumbtacks. But ultimately, what led to one of them not being able to answer the 10 count was when Josh Alexander got Hammerstone with the C4 spike on the entrance ramp. That was enough to keep Hammerstone down for the 10 count, get Josh Alexander the win, and get this match a 5 out of 5. Then for the Knockouts Championship, Steph DeLander versus Jordan Grace. It was a good match for most of it. Like, before it started getting really interesting, I was going to give it a 3. But then when the good hands who were there with Steph DeLander tried to cost Jordan Grace the match, the lights went out, and out came PCO, which I was like, yeah, okay, cool. But of course, that brought out Khan, who's still angry at PCO. And then, of course, this is TNA, men beat up women, and everybody cheers it. Khan was about to take out Jordan Grace for Steph DeLander, and the lights went out again, and we had the return of Sami Callihan, who by himself with a bat took out Khan and the good hands, allowing Jordan Grace to get the Grace driver onto Steph DeLander, get the pin and the win, retaining her Knockouts Championship. Honestly, like I said, it was really good, but it wasn't that interesting until the lights kept going out and we got new people in there. But easily that was entertaining enough to get this up to a 4 out of 5. And then the main event for the TNA World Championship. Nick Nemeth challenging Moose. Honestly, this was one where I had no clue which way it was going to go. They've been building up Nick Nemeth for a while. He's right now their hottest star, as he was a big star in WWE. They even had the whole thing of Nick bringing his entire family there, his father and his brother and everybody, to watch his championship win. And of course, Moose has the system with him, but eventually they got kicked out of ringside. So Moose was on his own. And it went back and forth, a couple of close calls, until Nick Nemeth charged him, but got taken out as Moose did his spear, got the pin, and retained his TNA World Championship. Which I've talked about this before. I like that when they can do that, where the heel champion doesn't have to cheat. They're that dominant. And Moose is definitely that guy. But the most interesting part came after the match, when again the lights went out, and we're wondering who is it this time, and we had the return of broken Matt Hardy, who is apparently setting his sights on Moose. Which, I'll get into more of my feelings on that in a little bit, but that stepped this up to a solid 3 out of 5 to a 4 out of 5. So TNA Rebellion 2024 was actually a really good show. From what I hear, it didn't do as well as they were hoping, but then again, that's probably because of the whole thing of, like, let's schedule a pay-per-view on the same weekend as a bigger company. That's not always a good idea. And I think that's why, because whereas this came out the same weekend as Dynasty, and I wouldn't say it was as good, it wasn't so bad that it really deserved to get lost in the shuffle that much. But that happens. Maybe just do it a week before or a week after, something like that. But either way, like I said, it was really good. Like, very entertaining matches. What I'm happy about the most is they are building stories. Because that's honestly what I love the most about wrestling, is I do love the athleticism stuff, but I love the storytelling even more. It had a couple of 3s, couple of 4s, couple of 5s. So it was just an all-around good show. I like the returns they had in this. I like Mike Santana being on his own. I think he can be a great single star. But in AEW, he was just being lost in the shuffle. So maybe TNA is a place where he can make a singles name for himself. I like that Sami Callihan is back in TNA. Was kind of hoping he'd go on to something else, but then again, we saw his time in NXT as Solomon Crow. That didn't really work out. He might be that niche kind of guy. And broken Matt Hardy, the one everybody's talking about. This was a great character in TNA. Then they went to WWE with it, tried to do woken Matt Hardy. It didn't work. He went to AEW. When he first debuted in AEW, it was the broken character, and it just didn't work. In my opinion, it's the best thing Matt Hardy has ever done. And keep in mind, I'm saying that as a big fan of Matt Hardy version 1. But Broken Matt Hardy, there was just something so creative about it that kept being creative. And this is going to give us a chance to find out, was it just a character that had run its course and nobody cared anymore? Or was it just a character that only fit in a place like TNA? That question will be answered soon. Because ultimately, Matt Hardy in WWE, the Woken thing didn't work. Him just being his old self with his brother just didn't work anymore. That had gotten stale. Then again, Matt Hardy being himself in Impact before he came up with Broken Matt Hardy had gotten stale. He goes over to AEW. The Broken thing didn't work. He tried being himself. He tried being that mogul Matt Hardy. It didn't work. So, again, there is that question of, is it just that it doesn't work in the two big leagues, or is it just something that had gotten stale? Let's find out. Because ultimately, I did feel like there was more to give out of that character. I loved what is hopefully the blow-off match between Hammerstone and Josh Alexander so that both of them can move on. I'm hoping Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young, this is the blow-off match, they can move on. We'll see. And as far as the opening match with Mustafa Ali, I wanted to be a Mustafa Ali fan when he was in WWE. I thought he was really good, but in WWE, it just seemed like he couldn't really let out the charisma, even when he was trying to be a heel character. Since coming to TNA, it is giving us a chance to see more of what he can do, not just in the ring. And I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. It's working. So that was my constant thing in WWE, was just he can't seem to make himself interesting. Well, in TNA, he's making himself very interesting. I am enjoying his run as X Division champion. I'm enjoying that they did a build-up to an X Division championship match. It wasn't just, hey, we got a great high flyer guy, and we found another great high flyer guy, and we're going to put him in the pay-per-view together, and it's going to be great. No, give us a rivalry. And they did, and I'm happy about it. I'm overall happy with the show. If they continue doing like this, maybe they won't get overshadowed so much. But overall, TNA Rebellion, really good. Makes me actually a little bit excited for what's in store in the future for TNA. And I would give this one a 4 out of 5. Yee! So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when I post the videos. And leave a comment I can respond to in my next Comic Corner. Tell me what you thought of TNA Rebellion. Love you guys.